Good morning. Thanks for having me, and a special thank you to Secretary Wilkie and Dr. Lawrence. We very much appreciate your leadership. So the GI Bill is a story that helped build the modern America. In 1944, it democratized the previously exclusive opportunity of a higher education. After bringing a diversity of growth to the student population, of which were unprecedented in the world at the time, the GI Bill's contribution to building our post-World War II country gave us a sustained global edge. Many people don't realize that the GI Bill of Rights, so coined during its use by the greatest generation, was a suite of readjustment benefits. Over time, many of these programs, such as the Home Loan Guarantee, property and business loans, and others were modernized in statute based on their long-term success. The birth of this education program and its maturation through the performance of the Forever GI Bill are something that we celebrate, honor, and continue to promote. Today, there are nearly 1 million Americans pursuing their education with the support of the GI Bill. If not for the success of the original GI Bill, the education opportunities of today would not exist for millions of Americans. As we celebrate today here at George Washington University, the site where the first GI Bill user attended college, there is clearly an appreciation for the history of the GI Bill, an appreciation that over the last 75 years has never stopped. Indeed, those early legislative victories, won many decades before, continue to contribute to the success of our nation. When returning service members and veterans made their way to our nation's college and university campuses after service in the early years of the global war on terrorism, it became clear that the heritage of the GI Bill would take on a new chapter. The post-9/11 GI Bill was a hard-fought and hard-won victory, thanks to groups such as the American Legion and the Veterans of Foreign Wars, and at the time, a fledgling Student Veterans of America, among many others. But the GI Bill is more than legislative victories. In partnership with the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs and the National Student Clearinghouse, Student Veterans of America studied the individual education records of the first 1.85 million veterans using the GI Bill after September 11th, 2001. We know that mine, the post-9/11 generation of veterans, is the most diverse cohort of veterans our country has ever known, and the contemporary student veterans are representative of that. Today, 27% of all student veterans are women, our sisters in arms, the largest population of our sisters in arms who have ever attended college in our nation's history. Nearly 2/3 of student veterans are just like me, a first-generation college student. The GI Bill is quite literally rebuilding America's middle class and addressing our country's leadership deficit, as veterans earn degrees and go on to sustain contributions in America's growing high-demand fields while also serving in their local communities. Let's look at the basic numbers. The most well-known academic success measure is the grade point average. The national GPA for traditional college students who have never served in the military is a respectable 3.1. More impressively, though, the GPA for students who have worn the cloth of their nation, student veterans, is a 3.35. Most interestingly of all, student veterans are out-graduating nearly all students in post-secondary education, achieving a success rate of 72% compared to the national average of only 68% for students who have never served in the military. Our research also shows that the top 3 higher education majors of veterans from the World War II generation, that greatest generation using the original GI Bill, were, in this order, business, science, engineering, math, and health-related fields. Now let's fast forward to the post-9/11 generation of veterans, the generation of veterans attending college right here at campuses like George Washington University. The top 3 majors for my generation are, in this order, business, science, technology, engineering, math, and health-related fields. It has been well documented that the greatest generation, nearly 50% of them, went to college using the GI Bill. We call the service women and men of World War II the greatest generation because, let's be honest, they were. But something people forget is that prior to 1998, we referred to those of the World War II era as the GI generation. It wasn't until Tom Brokaw published a book called The Greatest Generation in 1998 that we began referring to the World War II era as the greatest generation. And if you think about it, it's understandable. With any generation's warrior class, we are proud of them when they return home, but we need to see what they do before we classify their achievements. In my opinion, the moniker of the greatest generation was well earned, but we must remember that the title wasn't bestowed until 1998, a full 53 years after the guns of Europe and the Pacific fell silent and World War II was over. 50% of veterans from the greatest generation went on to college after their war. My generation is beating them. Fully 77% of post 9/11 generation of veterans has attained a college degree, which makes the post 9/11 era of veterans the most educated cohort of veterans in the history of the United States. My generation, the post 9/11 generation of warriors, are building on the work and the legacy of those that came before us, and we will continue to shape America for the future. To honor the legacy of the original GI Bill, our country continues to invest in generations of student veterans. Veterans answered our country's call once before, and using their GI Bill, they educate themselves in preparation for a life of continued service, a second service, and we, as veterans, are embracing that second service as what I like to call the ambassadors of the all-volunteer force. From 1944 until 2019, veterans have used the GI Bill to build opportunities and give back to our nation. This is the true legacy of the GI Bill, and why I believe that my generation of veterans, the post 9/11 generation of veterans, can be the solution to whatever challenges America may face in her future, because my sisters and brothers of the post 9/11 generation of veterans truly have the potential to become America's next greatest generation. Thank you all so much for being here today.